The elder of Jerusalem, a man who has lived a long life in service to the people, beloved by his fellow citizens for his wisdom and piety, stands on the tower of his own house, surrounded by 500 armed soldiers of the Syrian king, who break down the doors below to capture him alive and take him to torture. Razis lived in Jerusalem in the 2nd century BC, during the reign of the Syrian king Antiochus IV Epiphanes, one of the most brutal persecutors of the Jewish faith in history. Antiochus seized power over Judea, plundered the temple in Jerusalem, installed a statue of Zeus in the sanctuary, sacrificed a pig on the altar of the Lord, forbade on pain of death to observe the Sabbath, perform circumcision, and keep the scrolls of the Torah. Soldiers toured towns and villages, forcing Jews to eat pork, worship idols, and renounce the faith of their fathers. Those who refused were killed in the most sophisticated ways. Mothers with babies circumcised in defiance of the decree were hung from city walls with their children tied to their necks. Elders who refused to eat pork were beaten to death. Families who found scrolls of the law were burned alive along with books. Priest Mattathiah and his 5 sons rebelled, fleeing to the mountains and launching a guerrilla war against the invaders. This uprising went down in history as the Maccabean, after the nickname of one of the sons, Judas Maccabeus. Razis was one of the elders of Jerusalem, a man of advanced age who held a high position in society, known for his wisdom, piety, and love for his fellow citizens. The Bible says of him, "There was a certain Razis, one of the elders of Jerusalem, a man who loved his fellow citizens, who had excellent testimony, and was called the father of the Jews because of his affection for them. He was not a warrior, he did not fight in the ranks of the Maccabees, but he supported the uprising, helped his fellow tribesmen, and remained faithful to the God of his fathers when many around him renounced the faith in order to save their lives." Antiochus had a military commander named Nicanor, sent to suppress the Maccabean rebellion and destroy all those who supported the rebels. Someone, a traitor from among the Hellenized Jews, denounced Razis to Nicanor, saying that this elder was secretly helping the rebels, harbouring fugitives, supporting the resistance, and enjoying great influence among the people. Nicanor decided to capture Razis, believing that arresting the respected elder would be a blow to the morale of the Jews and force others to surrender. The Bible says Nicanor, wishing to show his hatred of the Jews, sent more than 500 soldiers to capture him, for he thought that by taking him, he would cause the Jews to be defeated. 500 soldiers to arrest one old man shows how important Nicanor considered the capture of Razis, and how dangerous this man's reputation was for the occupation authorities. Perhaps Nicanor planned not only to kill the elder, but also to publicly torture him, force him to renounce his faith, give out the names of his associates, and break the spirit of resistance by humiliating the revered leader. When the squad surrounded Razis' house, the warriors began to break down the doors, trying to break in and capture him alive. The elder could have tried to escape through the back door, he could have hidden, he could have given up and hoped for mercy. But he chose a different path, a path that was almost unthinkable for an ancient Jew, because suicide was considered a grave sin, a violation of the 6th commandment, "Thou shalt not kill," arrogating to himself the right to dispose of a life belonging only to God. When the detachment was ready to take the tower and they broke down the door by force, and he was ordered to light it, he, surrounded on all sides, turned the sword on himself. Razis ascended to the tower of his house, an upper room or roof from where he could see the approaching soldiers, and when he heard them breaking down the door, he made a decision. It was better to die free than fall into the hands of his tormentors. He did not want to be tortured, forced to renounce, betray his comrades, and eat unclean food in front of the people, turning his fall into an edification for others. The Bible explains the motive for his decision. Preferring to die nobly, rather than become the laughing stock of the wicked and unworthily endure the insult of his kind. For Razis, honour and loyalty to God were more precious than life. He preferred death by his own hand to the shame of captivity, torture, and possible renunciation under torment. It was a deliberate choice by a man who knew what awaited Nicanor's captives, and decided not to give his enemies this triumph. He drew a sword, perhaps it was a short dagger that was worn for self-defence, and plunged it into his chest, aiming at his heart so that death would occur instantly. But either the hand wavered at the last moment, or the angle of the blow was wrong, or the sword slipped along the ribs. The blow fell inaccurately, and instead of a quick death, Razis received a severe but not fatal wound, from which blood gushed, causing excruciating pain, but not killing immediately. But as the blow was made with haste, inaccurately, and the detachment was already entering the door, he boldly ran up the wall and courageously rushed at the people. An old man, bleeding profusely, with a sword sticking out of his chest or already pulled out, leaving a gaping wound, did not fall or give up, but ran with incredible desperation through the rooms of the house, up the stairs to the city wall connected to the tower of his house. The warriors were already rushing into the room. They saw the wounded old man bleeding, and probably thought he would fall in seconds. But Razis, gathering his last strength, ran up the wall. Perhaps it was part of the city fortifications adjacent to his house, and from the edge of the wall rushed down at the crowd of soldiers surrounding the building. When they quickly parted, he fell into the middle of an empty seat. The warriors staggered back, not wanting the falling man to crush them, and the elder fell to the pavement to the stones from a height of several meters, a fall that should have killed or at least broken bones. But the Bible says, with his breath still in him and his spirit burning, he stood up, despite the fragmentation of his limbs. Incredible willpower, desperate determination not to give up alive, adrenaline of pain and rage. All this lifted the mutilated, bleeding old man to his feet. The soldiers stood around, watching this terrifying sight. A man with a wound in his chest, with broken bones from a fall, gets up and continues to fight for the right to die free. And when the blood was pouring out in strong streams, he ran through the ranks and stood on some steep rock. Razis, staggering and bleeding, ran through the ring of soldiers. Perhaps they were so shocked by his tenacity that they did not try to grab him immediately, or he moved with such fury that they retreated and climbed up a cliff, a jutting rock from where he could see everyone below, and everyone could see him. And there, standing on the edge of a cliff facing the enemies, Razis committed the last most terrifying act of his resistance. Completely drained of blood, he grabbed his entrails with both hands and threw them at the people. With 2 hands, he plunged his fingers into the wound on his chest, widened it, tore out his own intestines, possibly parts of his liver and lungs, and hurled them into the faces of the soldiers below, turning his dying body into a weapon of contempt and defiance. This act was not just the agony of a dying man, but a conscious declaration. You will not get me alive. You will not break my will. You will not force me to renounce. And even in death I spit on you and your gods. Razis knew he was dying, but he wanted to die on his own terms without giving his enemies the satisfaction of capturing him.